What's your greatest most satisfying IF King called it moment? Kept finding small cut up straws in my grandma's bathroom. So many straws. I let my grandmother know that someone is using her bathroom to use drugs. She freaks out saying I'm accusing her of using drugs and that it's impossible. A year later my uncle divorces his wife due to her cocaine addiction. Grandma says well Kay always stopped by in the afternoon to use the restroom and then she would clean my whole house and I just didn't think anything of it. My favorite story at Thanksgiving. Not sure if I can call it satisfying, but it's still a good one. In 2003 I wrote a thesis on mortgage-backed securities. The whole thing did not make sense to me and told my professor as much. But added, what do I know? I'm just a student and Wall Street guys must know what they are doing. Apostrophe. And then 2008 happened. Had a friend who started dating a guy while she was in the middle of rehab for alcohol and drug abuse. Found out the guy was a former meth user. I told her she was going to end up in prison or worse if she didn't break up with him. She was on probation for multiple DUIs. Within 2 months. Not only was she in prison, she was pregnant while in prison. When I met my mom's husband's adult kids. After a few minutes of hanging out with them I followed my mom into the kitchen. Me. 3 of his 4 kids are gay? Mom. No. Only 1 is. Me. No. 3 are. 10 years later. 1 of his children is in a same-sex marriage and 2 of his kids are living with long-time same-sex partners. The gaydar is strong with this one. A little too strong. I went to the theater to watch a movie with some buddies one time. While waiting in line to get popcorn I found 22 cents on the ground and one buddy said when are you ever gonna need 22 cents? I jokingly told him that one day he's gonna wish he had 22 cents and he'll regret saying that. Sure enough when we're paying for popcorn, that same buddy was exactly 22 cents short. I gave it to him in exchange for a popcorn tax. The first Avengers movie. My husband was wondering why the staff could stop the almighty Tesseract. I casually said, maybe. They're both Infinity Stones. He said, nah. The Tesseract is its own thing. Because he was more into the comics at the time. I shrugged it off. Since then, every MacGuffin in the movies. Down to Thor's Dark World. I jokingly said, Infinity Stone to troll him. You can imagine how pissed he's been since Guardians. I've been practicing law in the same venue for many years with the same judges and attorneys. New hotshot attorney out of law school is opposing counsel. It's a death case. My client was not responsible. But opposing counsel would not listen to reason. On the eve of trial, a client is willing to offer a decent amount to settle the case. I call the attorney and encourage her to take it. I told her that if she didn't accept. When we went to trial the next day I was going to have all her evidence thrown out and strike her witnesses. She thought I was bluffing. I assured her I was not. I told her to call any attorney in the area and ask them if I was a straight shooter. She basically told me to FCK and that she'd see me at trial. Sure enough. The judge excludes her documentary evidence, all hearsay, and strikes her witnesses. She has 0 evidence when the judge is through with her. Her client was in tears. I think she got sued for malpractice. She wasn't at that firm long after that debacle. But IF King told her that would happen. Found out my now ex-husband was sleeping with a coworker. So naturally we divorce. But still have to keep in contact because we have a daughter. Well, her fiance finds out and leaves her as well. Now she is a decade older than me and had mentioned that she and her ex-fiance had been trying for a baby for a long time. But never conceived. He continued to see her and eventually she moved on with him. He didn't want any more kids. I told him to be careful because I suspected she was only with him to have a baby. Fast forward a year and she's pregnant. He comes to terms with it after being slightly upset. Fast forward a year after their baby was born and she breaks up with him. Shocker. Dude at work had been complaining about his crazy girlfriend and her problems. 2 weeks later he is talking about how she is pregnant. In my head I'm thinking, she is going to lose the baby because it isn't real. Sure enough, he comes in all sad about just over 2 more weeks later saying she had a miscarriage. Some time passed and he is complaining about her crazy antics again. I don't care if they are up 28-3. They are the Falcons. They'll blow it somehow. Co-worker made a very unethical, behind closed doors deal with another company. And he was an agency resource. Not even a full employee of my company. After months, I spoke up about something being fishy. And concerns of pre-committing purchasing, etc. My apathetic boss ignores me. All while co-worker secures a job at the other company to work on the project that he set up with my company. Fast forward a year later. Now they are citing that project as a pre-commit for service. Wisdom never tasted so sour. Friend of mine got into a relationship with this girl. He tells me that she cries every time he tries to end their chat. I immediately think to myself, this isn't gonna be good. She becomes incredibly controlling, to the point of our crew only hearing from him once every few weeks. I mentioned how utterly f***ed it was to him, but he refused to believe that there was something wrong. Claimed he could persuade her otherwise. 2 years later, no sign of any of his progress. Was really sad to watch him slowly fade out of our lives in favor of her. Edit. Just a quick rephrase for clarity. Reach out. As someone who's been in that kind of relationship, he's not blowing you off in favor of her. He's blowing her off in favor of avoiding terrible consequences. Even if it's just to say my number is this. Please call or text when you want to catch up. Reach out. If this ends. And it should because it sounds toxic if. He's gonna need friends. I was on a second date and we were watching Criminal Minds at her apartment. I called that the killer would be an archaeologist who hadn't even been introduced yet. She was so blown away during the reveal at the end of the episode that I took a victory lap. As I rounded third I slipped where the carpet meets the hardwood and fell flat on my face. We've been married for over 2 years now. My wife was watching some TV show. I happened to walk in during some scene in which it was raining out. And a guy and a gal were looking at each other through their car windows as their kid went from one car to the other. I said here comes the scene where they make up without knowing any of the background of the show. My wife started telling me that it won't happen. They had had a failed relationship years earlier, hence the kid, and the woman was with a great guy. Right after she said that, the woman got out and ran to the guy's car basically professing her love for him. Probably not the only one, but I was watching Seven for the first time and my mom was eagerly watching me as I reacted to the movie. She lost her shit when I said, "Is that Kevin Spacey?" during the phone call scene. She couldn't believe I recognized his voice and figured out who it was before the big reveal. I'm obviously not the only one to have guessed, but it was satisfying watching her reaction. Following a car with its left turn signal on for 2 miles. The driver kept slowing at side streets as if to make a left turn, but didn't actually turn. I looked over at my daughter and said, "Watch. They'll make a right turn." F. King called it. Yes. They were still signaling left when they made the right turn. Ed. Well, maybe he was planning on 3 left turns then decided to do it all at once. That my sister is gay. Growing up she'd developed what was very obviously, to me, a crush on different girls. In high school I finally said, "Girl, have you considered that these feelings you have for so and so might be romantic?" She flipped the FCK out on me. We didn't talk for weeks. She'd date any guy that asked her out because she was supposed to like guys but never really felt anything for them. Finally in college she called me and went, "Yeah. So anyway, you're right. I'm totally gay." We joke that it took her so long not because she was in denial. She just didn't want me to be right. When my brother and sister-in-law planned a trip home for Easter weekend, I told my wife and parents that they were coming to announce their pregnancy. Everyone told me I was crazy and they'd just use the family chat for that. Cue Easter lunch on Saturday and my sil refuses a glass of wine and everyone guesses she's pregnant. Called it. My cousin swears it's my fault she has 5 kids. Every time she's been pregnant I called it before she knew. She says me saying it is what makes it take. I'm banned from asking her, are you pregnant? About halfway through Splice. When Dren has sex with Adrian Brody. I said out loud to my friends she's gonna morph into a male and I'll pay his wife. My friends were justifiably weirded out when that actually happened. My wife and I went to Red Lobster one day. My wife likes the shrimp and lobster pasta with Parmesan cheese. They sat her plate down. She got a weird look on her face. She told me it smelled weird, it smelled normal to me. I straight up asked her if she could be pregnant. Her eyes got wide as she starts doing some math in her head. We went afterwards and got a pregnancy test. Sure enough. She didn't even know yet. All because I remember some random tidbit about some food smelling off to pregnant women. Obviously not the most satisfying. There used to be a show called Tales from the Dark Side. I was watching it with my brother. The episode started with a female hiker who was lost and was taken in by an old couple. About 5 minutes into the episode I said, "The old people are going to cook and eat the young lady." Brother thought I was crazy. End of the episode was the young lady in the hot tube and the old people were bringing it up to boil and adding in vegetables and turning her into a soup. When a penny stock I bought around $0.03/share blew up to over $3. My only regret is not buying a lot more shares. Edit. For those asking. Here's my take based on my very limited experience with penny stocks. You can usually buy penny stock through your typical broker. You must be particularly wary of penny stocks because they can be subject to the phenomenon of pump and dump. One or more people, likely those who have stake in whatever company is offering penny stock, hype it up and hope that people will buy. As the price creeps up, those stakeholders may decide to sell and thus reap the rewards. While those who naively assume going long is best will hold on to that stock with hopes that it'll blow up. The number of penny stock failures I've invested in far outnumbers the successes. Like I've bought hundreds of thousands of shares of stock less than $0.01/share and seen it basically become valueless as the stakeholders have presumably sold their stake before the per share price hits the toilet. It's extremely hit or miss, to say the least. One of the old coaches from the Chicago Bears is Mark Trestman. I told everyone that he would not make it to the 3rd year of his contract. He would get fired after the 2nd season. I made a $500 bet with my dad because I was damn sure. Soon as the news broke, I called him and told him I prefer cash over check. About a year after my father's death, my mother got together with a man. I felt as if something was off from the start and told her that he doesn't seem right and that he was going to do something stupid and hurt her emotionally. A year later they got engaged and they seemed happy. I've never seen my mother so happy since before my father died. Well, as of yesterday, it came out that this man has been engaged to someone else since before my mother met him and that he has been sleeping with at least 2 other women on a regular basis. Wish I could tell her that I had F-King called it, but I'm afraid it will make her more upset. Anyways, now to build my revenge plan. Wish me luck. My mom and sister used to be obsessed with John and Kate +8 and I told them that they would end up getting divorced. When they announced the divorce, my mom and sister were devastated, but I couldn't help rubbing it in their faces. My mom thought the Duggars were just wonderful Christian people. I loathed them right from the start and told her they were extremely creepy and messed up people. And they were probably huge hypocrites. Then all the scandals came out and I was proved right. But I don't have the heart to rub it in her face. Boyfriend's best friend, let's call him John, started asking me for favors and texting me at odd hours of the night. Felt uneasy about John's actions and informed my boyfriend every time I was contacted as soon as it happened. I explained to boyfriend that John was acting suspiciously and making me uncomfortable, but I couldn't pinpoint why. Cut to a month or so later. John claims I cheated on my boyfriend with John. IF-kin knew it. Disclaimer. I didn't douche tea with John. Edit. A lot of people have asked the same question, so I figured I'd answer here. John has been demoted from best friend to no longer acknowledged person on earth. I don't know why John did what he did, and I likely will never know. However, his actions were a reflection of who he is as a person and have very little to do with me. Boyfriend and I are still going strong. It's privilege to spend my days with my boyfriend. My company, IMSI, had a contract with a big Fortune 500 company, F5. I was head of one of the departments. Kept raising flags that the contract was at risk due to changing F5 policies. Was told not to worry about it. IMSI boss got distracted by and married a foreign stripper who lived across the country. Stopped paying attention to MC. He asked me to do a specific thing to cover up the internal problems we were having. I said no disrespect meant. But I already tried that. It didn't work. So I'm not wasting time to try it again when I'm overworked as it was. Got fired for insubordination. Told MC good luck with the contact. They didn't have a chance without me. F5 company was furious. They cut the contact with the department I used to head 6 months early and with the entire company when it came up for renewal. IMSI has been through about 6 rounds of massive layoffs since then and is struggling to pay their bills. F5 company hired me directly for a 15k raise doing basically exactly the same job. I tried to warn MC. This is my best and worst called it moment. I was sitting in biology class in high school when I heard sirens outside and looked outside the window to see an ambulance rushing past. I thought to myself, that's headed in the direction of my grandma's house, even though there was a plethora of other streets it could have turned on. Looking back, it was only even vaguely heading in that direction. I had the thought because my grandma had a heart attack a year prior. I got word a few hours later that it did in fact head to my grandparents' house. Only it was for my aunt who was staying with them. She was murdered outside their house by her ex-boyfriend. I'm still not sure why I thought the ambulance was heading there. But being correct sucked. Caught up with a high school friend on a university campus. Pretty quiet guy. Subtle good looks but never showed any interest in relationships. We were waiting for separate buses when he runs into one of his classmates. And she joins us in the bus line. We were having pretty good conversation. But I saw her eyes repeatedly flickering over to his face. Soon after, my bus pulled up. So I smiled and waved goodbye to my friend. And said to the girl, it was great meeting you. I'm sure I'll see you a lot more in the future. She looked puzzled. But smiled and waved back. They're in a common law marriage now. And getting officially married next year. And they've been valuable friends to my fiance and I for the last 6 years. Drunkenly told my uncle's girlfriend she would be gone my Christmas and Thanksgiving. My uncle was a bit of a playboy and always had different semi-trashy women around. The best part is I didn't even know I said it, cause alcoholism. I found out when my dad told me at Christmas she went into rehab and they broke up maybe a week before Christmas. Hey, you were right. About what? I once had a movie night with my best friend. She forced me to watch a romantic movie she loved and I wasn't in the mood. Anyway, we watched and after 5 or 10 minutes the girl protagonist says to the boy, "Okay, we can hang out. But do not fall in love with me." Because I was pissed. This line kind of unnerved me and sounded somehow suspicious. I rudely said, "I bet she has cancer." Well, my BFF looked at me with a disappointed glare and as soon as half of the movie was over I knew why. She actually had cancer. Guess I'm a fortune teller now. I still relish that I was right about this. That show 19 Kids and Counting. Over Thanksgiving one year 2 of my aunts got talking about it and were just raving about how amazing they thought it was and what a great family they had. I pretty much said something to the degree of nope. That's not normal. Those kids are essentially raising each other and I guarantee you that something is not right. They completely dismissed me. Said I didn't know what I was talking about because I don't watch the show. Etc. When the news eventually broke that one was molesting some of the others, I felt so vindicated. But my absolute favorite moment was the next Thanksgiving, where at the dinner table I got to say, "So how about that Duggar family, huh?" Dead silence from my aunts. But I had a shit-eating grin on my face from ear to ear. In Canada we have a holiday called Family Day in February. In 2008 my wife was dealing with a sick family member out of town and had come back for a visit. We were trying to have a child at the time. Well, with our crazy schedules we had one chance on Family Day. The moment we were done, I jumped up, gave her the double finger guns, first time in my life, and said, "Bam. You're pregnant. Twin girls. Red hair." Turns out I got everything right except the hair. Her Italian genes beat me in that one. I win for our entire marriage with that prediction. Edit. Thanks for my first gold. I want to brag to my wife I got gold. But I did not clear posting this with her. So conflicting. Gold versus living.